pretty good mean to you? When I discovered this poem during my senior year of high school, the phrase pretty good meant a lot to me. Charles Osgood's poem, Pretty Good, is intended to reach the individual reader and remind them that they should be better than pretty good. Written as a part of the Osgood Files, the poem I am about to read explains how our actions and our aspirations are translated to the making of the pretty good nation, and although you may think to the world you may be one person, you are much more than that. There once was a pretty good student who sat in a pretty good class, and was taught by a pretty good teacher who let pretty good pass. He wasn't terrific at reading, he wasn't a whiz-bang at math, but for him, education was leading, straight down a pretty good path. He didn't find school too exciting, but he wanted to do pretty well, and he did have some trouble with writing, since nobody taught him to spell. When doing arithmetic problems, 5 pretty good was regarded as fine. 5 plus 5 needn't always add up to 10. A pretty good answer was 9. The pretty good class that he sat in was part of a pretty good school, and the student was not an exception. On the contrary, he was the rule. The pretty good school that he went to was there in a pretty good town, and nobody there seemed to notice he could not tell a verb from a noun. The pretty good student, in fact, was part of a pretty good mob, and the first time he knew when he lacked was when he looked for a pretty good job. It was then, when he saw a position, he discovered that life could be tough, and he soon had a sneaking suspicion pretty good might not be good enough. The pretty good town in our story was part of a pretty good state, which had pretty good aspirations and prayed for a pretty good fate. There once was a pretty good nation, pretty proud of its greatness it had, which learned much too late, if you want to be great, pretty good, in fact, is pretty bad.
Okay, Meg, how was this one for you?
It was okay. It's like, I know that the oral interpretation is supposed to less like help you try to not necessarily memorize it or like have eye contact, but to work on like tone and volume and pitch, which was like one of my goals for the quarter, but I feel like it still was really hard to try to like get that across. So it was okay, but not the best, I feel.
Okay, all right. It's not easy.
Yeah.
It's not easy. Yeah, okay. Anything else?
I don't know. I think I do have like, I took notes like on the piece, but definitely like trying to maintain eye contact is really hard, especially when you're like reading it and then trying to like re-find your place or something. So it was okay overall. I don't know, I was a lot more nervous for this one, which I feel like a lot of people wouldn't be,
Okay.
since it's like you don't have to take much time. Or I mean, like I don't know, but it was okay.
All right. Okay, audience, if you could, teammates, please.
I really enjoyed the piece that you chose. I thought it was really interesting, and I also like how it rhymed, and I think you did a good job presenting it.
I agree. I thought it was like really easy to follow. I've like heard that piece before, but I never like looked into it, and so your brief introduction gave like a meaning towards it, so that was good.
I also loved the pacing. Like I thought we did a good job picking the beginning. We went a little faster, like talking about like piece of life and stuff. But then like we got to like the part where like the main like point of the speech came across at the end. Just like
Okay. Meg, first of all, I like the piece. That was kind of it was a certainly one to make you stop and think, for sure. So in that regard, I thought like that. I thought I liked your attention getter, and I think that it allowed us to give pause for thought, and really kind of get us sort of into the piece of it. I might have said maybe just connect it to your audience just a little bit more, and that could have helped just a bit. And I would also say knowing that you have to rely so much on the manuscript during the reading itself, I might say really make an effort to make eye contact throughout your entire introduction. And then that way it really feels like we're establishing that relationship early on, so that when you do start to look down, then we're a little more, how do I say, forgiving, if that makes sense. So that would be my one suggestion for you there. I think once you settled into it, it actually went quite nicely. A little bit of nervous energy, a little shifty at the beginning, but then you really settled into it. I thought that in that regard, then we started seeing a little bit more of that emphasis and that tone shifting and giving a little more credence to what was being said. I thought as the piece progressed, he slowed down just a little bit. And I think what I would say with the speed, it wasn't so much that the speed was fast, but just be intentional with what the emotion that's being said, right? It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Kind of maybe just play around with that just a little bit. All right? All right, thanks. Thank you.